Hey guys, welcome to another ramble. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are enjoying today. Um, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like 2025 has been a little kind of weird. Weird vibes, weird energy. Like it's definitely not like a calm feeling. It's a very disruptive feeling and I don't know. Like, I guess this video is going to touch on how to function in the midst of disruption. You know, how to function when things aren't going well. How to function, how to keep your shit together when things are falling apart. Because I've noticed, like, I don't know, like I thought 2025 would have been like the turning point for things to actually like smooth out, but it's been very disruptive. And I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I don't think it's just a me thing. I've just been like observing people around me and occurrences around me, and it's been very interesting. Um, so yeah, let's start. Let's start by like, how do you do that? Like, first of all, acknowledge, like, don't gaslight yourself into toxic positivity. Don't gaslight yourself everything's okay. And I want to say, even though everything actually is okay, you might not feel okay. You might feel very disrupted inside, outside, all around. So let's just acknowledge that. Let's take a moment to acknowledge that. If it helps, like from an astronomical viewpoint or angle, we are currently in Mars in retrograde. I've figured that out. And yeah, that is definitely going to attribute to like feeling low in in spirits and just kind of like things getting like jostled about. What would normally be normal, it's being jostled about. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you should just like look into that. Mars in retrograde. I know we are familiar with Mercury in retrograde, but yeah, um, if things are not going easy peasy in life for you currently, just maybe take a look into that, and that will help put your mind at ease. Because I notice the mind will always like freak out if it doesn't understand something, and this will help to stabilize it a little bit. What else? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, don't gaslight yourself. Just acknowledge, okay, things feel a little unstable and I am trying my best to stabilize myself amidst this instability. And then, yeah, just keep being more intentional about like how you're spending your time, what you're thinking about, what you're feeling, being very intentional about it. Just recognizing that you have a limited amount of time throughout the day and not everyone or everything deserves your attention. So if you have like a coworker or a customer or some random stranger freaking out, um, they need to figure that out. The same way you're trying to figure yourself out, the same way you're trying to bring equilibrium to yourself, you know? Really hard to do when I feel like there's a lot of unstable parts that's moving about, and then just trying to like maintain that sense of like calmness and peace. For people who are accustomed to like rushing and just like doing a million things at once, this is a time to just take a step back, assess, and realize that you really don't need to be rushing. You probably need to cut things off of, I don't know, like, or take things off the plate called your life and say, you know what, that doesn't require my attention. It's not that important. Just to like loosen the tension and release the load. People who are like on the opposite end of that, which that's where I am currently, um, just give yourself grace, just give yourself the rest that you need, but also make sure you are engaged and active because you don't want to be too complacent. You don't want to be too stagnant, because that's not good. Also, we're all looking for that sweet spot, that balance point. So yeah, like people like me who are like normally just chill, Like, it's good to be chill, but then you need to make sure you're engaging and active in some aspects of life, because if not, that gets really stagnant really quick, and that's not good. What else? Oh yeah. So like for me, and I think maybe you can relate to this. Like, I prioritize my peace. I prioritize my, taking accountability and taking responsibility for regulating myself. But I don't know, there's just so many factors around me that are really like throwing me off my game. And I'm just like, okay, acknowledge. And then, like, what can I do? For me, like, I've been encountering a lot of like external things outside of me that have been disrupting my peace. And sometimes you can't get away from it. If ideally you'd want to remove yourself from such things, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you need to be in the midst of these things. And best thing to do, honestly, is to diligently practice. I want to say not taking things personally, which I say often in my videos, not taking things personally. Um, disengaging, disengaging with the disruptive thing or person, and maintaining your peace, and maintaining and creating an energetic boundary that allows you to view what's going on but not participate. Now, some people might say that that's, how do I say, apathetic, like, oh, you don't care. No, 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 you're preserving your peace. You're preserving your calmness. And I feel like the best way to operate is to preserve your peace and calmness, because you can't make clear and concise decisions that make sense in nonsense when you are like in a mental space of disarray. You can't. When you're all like disarrayed and fragmented and like thrown off kilter, you'll make really like messed up decisions in that state of mind. So it's really important to, yeah, not take things personally, disengage with the disruptive thing or person, and just kind of maintain your boundary and your peace. I've noticed, like, for me, like, it's not even a pet peeve. It's just something I notice. Like, most people like to engage in gossip. Most people like to complain without seeking a solution. And before, I would get engaged, I would emotionally get involved with these people's stuff. And now I'm just, no, 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 no. Just like disengage, observe, don't take it personally, and emotionally retract. Just allow that person to be how they are, and just disengage. That's the best way I know how to deal with that, unless you guys have better ways of dealing with it. I mean, for me, I think the struggle is, when do you actually speak up and say, "Hey, like, I don't really want to talk about this," or just like create a container where you kind of like sector off your energy and the person's energy. I'm still kind of debating with the best way, and I don't think there's any wrong way or right way. There's just the more effective way, and I think that is compromised, because every moment is different. Every situation is different. Every person is different. The way your your state of equilibrium and the other person's state of equilibrium will always be different. So you're never like revisiting the same moment, So it's like you need to like learn how to adapt despite like what's going on around you. Yeah, and just being super intentional. Super intentional. Like, how am I going to spend my time? Like, right now, I am amidst chaos. Intentionally, like, where am I going to place my attention? How am I going to respond? Just being very intentional about it, and not letting somebody else drive your responses or reactions. So hard. But I feel like, man, if you like overcome this, you're gonna be a fucking master of yourself, master of like just like being in this world. Period. Um, yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to talk about. It's like pretty hot here. Yeah, and just keep giving yourself time to self-reflect and like pinpoint areas of life that are disruptive so that you can explore the root cause of that. And then when you get to the root cause, you can remedy it. That's the only way you can do it. Like if you don't give yourself the time to pinpoint like triggers and like things that like disrupt your peace, if you don't take that time to sit in silence with yourself, you'll never get to the root cause of it. And then you could never really come up with a solution. You know, the medicine. You can't self-medicate with, you know, a proper, how do I say? I know I'm like it's like I'm getting like little like brain fogs in between speaking, which is another thing I wanted to talk about. I feel like in this day and age, oh man, I miss the 70s. I miss the 80s. I miss the 90s. I even miss the 2000s. This day and age, I feel like people are normalizing really not normal things. People are really normalizing nonsense. And I'm just like losing my mind over here, like watching these people do these things. And I'm like, okay. For instance, like this is like really funny. How do I say the story? I was engaged in conversation with some people who were visiting, and I didn't know these people. They're just like passerbyers, just to be clear. And they were complaining about how, oh, like where we are from, where back home, it's we're gonna get like a I don't know, some kind of like storm where it's freezing, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, is that common? They're like, no, it's not common. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, well, you know, and I jokingly say, like, when you go back home, you should take some of our sunshine. And when, you know, you get home, send us some of your water, like your rain, you know, your whatever. They're like, didn't you just get rain? And I'm like, yeah, we just got rain. Like, we got a day of rain. I'm like, a day of rain isn't going to replenish our water reserves. You know, it's like, especially when we used to get 3 months of rain. You get it? I'm like, so we're normalizing. Well, didn't you just get rain? So one day of rain is supposed to make up for like the 3 months of rain that we normally get. I mean, how are you supposed to survive if the water source is being depleted and not being refilled? Like a day of rain is not going to cut it, you know? And I don't know, like they thought I was, and the thing is, it's so funny. I've been getting this often. Like people are looking at me like I'm weird. And I'm looking at them like they're weird. And then I'm just like, these people don't know any better. But how would they know any better if they are growing up in a different time frame where like nonsense is being normalized and like, yeah, it's just weird. And then they don't really have a reference point because if you look at like, they've kind of gotten people addicted to technology and they've kind of controlled people's, I want to say, behavior by like having short attention spans and just constantly like scrolling. Have you seen people do that? Like just I do it. I catch myself. I'm not I do it sometimes though, especially when I'm under stress. I'm not gonna lie. That scrolling, but they've normalized that scrolling. So you basically get like a few seconds of information until it just flips to something else, which totally disrupts. So the brain never really absorbs something fully. You know, it's just like fragmented information and just force feeding yourself and normalizing and changing the behavior of people's attention span by just doing like windows of like scrolling. You know, so you never really get deep into something. And then not only that, they've kind of falsified a lot of the information and they've also like constructed it in a way where they want you to see it. I don't even know if I'm getting it. And then like for me, it's just like I'm used to pen and paper, but I feel like most people are just used to like digitizing everything. And you can erase everything in a millisecond, you know? So it's just like, how do you have a reference point if you're not writing it down? People can just change the information like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I feel like the powers that be are basically rewriting and rewiring your brain for you. And you don't really have a choice. And a lot of it is falsified information, nonsense, and very far from the truth. You know what I mean? And people are like absorbing it and thinking that's true. And so when somebody who can actually see like more truth than others have a conversation with these people who are obviously confused and misinformed and not able to have a reference point, it's just ridiculous. It's like you can't. You can't. They just and they look at you like you're something's wrong with you, but then at the same time you're like, okay, you're missing like a really large piece of information and you think that's true. And when I try to tell you what I see, you can't see that. So I don't know, it's weird. It's like the gas the, the gaslighters are being gaslit and gaslighting the people who aren't who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Does that mean I don't even know if I'm making sense at this point? See, look, I'm so confused because I'm surrounded by people who are confused, and I mean, it's definitely changing consciousness on a mass level when that is happening. Especially if communication is your primary form of like connection, but then if the communication and the information is distorted, what are we telling each other, guys? What is this all about? And that's why I don't know. I just keep like going back into myself for a feeling of peace and a sense of security. But then, okay, I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna stop because I don't even know if I'm making sense, and also I don't know if you're learning anything from this. But I hope you're having a blessed day. I hope, despite things being good or bad, or I don't know, fragmented, not frag. Despite anything that's happening, I hope you're are at peace with yourself. You know, because I mean, if you don't have peace, what do you have? If you don't have peace, what do you have? A very interesting reality, I suppose. Is it yours? Is it others? Is it collective? Is it individual? Is it all of it? Who knows? I'm gonna stop. I don't even know if I'm gonna post this. I tried making videos like a couple of times and I just was not satisfied with it, so I just deleted them. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Blessings to one and all. Amen.